My name is Ray. I'm gonna go ahead and just jump into the video. I wanted to go over the 5 things that I personally looked for when I was doing my research on which esthetician school I wanted to attend. Just a little overview. I got interested in becoming a lash tech a year prior to me even looking at schools. I noticed that a lot of girls were making a lot of money. And I figured, my job to me I feel like any job that I've ever had, it wasn't paying as much as I could get paid if I was providing a service. So that's the main reason why I pushed to go to esthetician school. And these were the 5 things that I was looking for based on what I wanted to do afterwards. So in the state of California, it's required that you have to be a licensed esthetician. And I do believe this is because during COVID, I feel like, and prior to COVID, lashing kind of blew up in the beauty industry, and there were a lot of certified lash technicians out there in the world, but they were low-key a risk to the public because of the fact that they weren't being taught proper sanitation and infection control. So, that's kind of a risk to the public, and the state's job is to regulate that risk. So then they made it mandatory that girls have to be a licensed esthetician in California to be able to practice lashing on, anyone who wants to get lashes in the public. They're starting to crack down on girls. So I feel like if you're a lash tech in California and you're only certified, you should really look into getting your license, because otherwise the state can shut you down for that. And I feel like if it's going to affect your money, why wouldn't you go get licensed? You're going to make that money back like 10 times over. So it doesn't even really matter whether or not you have to take a break or you have to do lashes part-time. You should probably go get your license if that's something you want to do like long-term. But that's besides the point. So the first thing that I looked into was my location and where I wanted to go to school, because I work full time, so I had to take into account the travel time after I got off work to get to school, and then the travel time it would take me to get back home if I chose a school in the area in which I was working in. So I pretty much decided to do it closer to my job, so that I would only have to drive. It's only like a 15 or less. It's like 10 minutes away from my job if I take the street. So it wasn't that far. And then the time to get back home was like the same amount of time I would take to get back home from work. So that's definitely something you should keep in mind if location is going to be an issue for you, or if you have to work in a totally different city from where your school is. Like, you should always take that into consideration. But that's a case-to-case basis, like every other point I'm going to bring up. So that's totally up to you. This is just what I was looking for. Another thing I was looking for was to make sure that my school was accredited under the California Board of Barbering and Cosmetology. If the California Board of Barbering and Cosmetology doesn't recognize your school as an accredited school, it's very possible that you won't even get to take the licensing exam after you finish your 600 hours with your program. So I just think that's important to take into consideration. They pretty much, after you finish school, they communicate directly with the board to submit the hours that you've completed with them, and then that pretty much makes you eligible to take or apply for taking the licensing exam in the state of California. And then you also have to be 17 years old and have completed the 10th grade. And if you want me to go in detail about what the 600 hours entail in California, let me know. Okay, so the third thing that I was looking for when I was looking for a program to attend was pretty much researching the type of institution, whether or not they could accommodate my work schedule, and the cost of the school, because based on which program or which school you attend, the prices are going to differ. And usually, from what I've noticed, because I've watched videos of other girls do videos on what they experienced in their esthetician school, and I've talked to people I personally know and family members. And basically, I was telling them how my school was about 13 to 16 grand to attend for 600 hours, the esthetician program. And they're like, oh, dang, mine wasn't that expensive, blah, blah, blah. But later it was because they kept asking me, like, oh, well, what did your school give you? Because when you attend school, they give you like beauty kits, and they'll give you, like, my school gave me a makeup kit, facial kit, and they gave us pretty much, oh, they gave us a lash kit. What else did they give us? That's all I can think of off the top of my head right now. But they also included like certifications that we could get through one of their partner brands. And I don't want to say what the brand is, because unless they're going to sponsor me, yeah, I'm not going to name the brand. But through the brand, you can get different certifications for different services you can provide if you're going to be like a full-time esthetician. And if you're not familiar with what estheticians do, they do a lot of skincare services. So facials, microdermabrasion, chemical peels, like things like that. My program includes all of that for free. And I feel like it has to do with our tuition, because I know other girls that I've seen on YouTube talk about how their school was a lot cheaper. It was probably like half the price or even less, but they weren't given kits and they weren't given those certifications like for free. They had to pay for all of that. So I personally feel like the type of products that we got, especially the facial products, those products are not cheap. If you were to buy them on your own, they're literally like one of the most popular brands that estheticians use for facials, or just in skincare in general, because this brand is so old. But anyways, that's something that I think you should take into consideration if you don't want to have to worry about like what you will have to buy in the future. I say the specific school I went to, yeah, I would definitely say they have a good program. I also like the program because I talked to family members close to me, and we were just comparing like what their program offered and what my program offered, and they're like, dang, your school offers so much more. And I was like, dang, at first I thought, not gonna lie, I thought my school pretty much, gypped me, or like they charged too much, but honestly, they didn't. Because everything that I received in my program, especially the products, the free products, well, not technically free, but you know what I mean. We didn't have to come out of pocket outside of our tuition for them. So I think if you're doing research, you got to make sure that they're offering these things in the package of your tuition. If not, I don't think that it's worth it if you're not going to have some type of financial aid. Or if you can pay out of pocket, then okay, go ahead. It doesn't really matter what the tuition is or how much things would cost at school. But I noticed that a lot of the girls that I go to school with, they're younger. They're like straight out of high school. So a lot of them aren't working. Either they're not working 9 to 5s like that yet, or they basically just can't afford to pay for things outside of receiving financial aid for tuition. So I think you should definitely keep that in mind when you're researching your program. And yeah, look at what type of scheduling they have, what type of teaching style they have, what's the curriculum, what you're going to be learning. You should definitely look into that online, and as well as talking to a counselor on the phone, or you know what I mean. So that was one of the things that I took into consideration, was definitely the tuition. If you have to price compare between schools, it's really not that hard if you just Google tuition, or you just go on their pages and look for like their total tuition, or talk to the counselors, so that you don't have to go into the school and waste time. You should probably do that before, you try to pick what type of school you want to attend. I was looking for, when I was doing research on schools, I was also looking at the teacher to student ratio, because one thing I don't like is attending school. I used to go to a university, and I don't like those schools that are impacted with like 100 students and there's like one teacher, because more likely than not, they're not going to have time to help you one on one if you need help with something. So luckily for the esthetician programs, they tend to be smaller than the cosmetology. So student to teacher ratio or teacher to student ratio shouldn't be too much of an issue when you're researching schools. I feel like schools definitely have similar teacher to student ratios in the aesthetics program. And I'm only going to say aesthetics because I noticed that aesthetics is always smaller than the actual cosmetology program. But it could be different from other schools. I'm just assuming because just what I've seen and what I've experienced. That's just something to keep in mind. Also, look at the reviews for the school. Luckily, when I started with the first 2 points, like location and the credited schools, that already lowered my list down to like 2 schools in the area. So what I wanted to do between those two, because they seem pretty similar when I was looking them up, I was like, what makes these 2 schools different? And I looked up the reviews, and that's pretty much what helped me make my decision, because I was reading students' reviews and they were giving their honest reviews, because baby, they were giving the tea and it was hot, and they were telling all the business and what their schools don't offer and basically the structure of the program. And that's what I did. I looked at the reviews and it helped me narrow it down to one school. And before I wanted to attend the school, I went in person to go get a tour, and that's leading into my 4th point, which is visit your prospective schools. Like, if it's hard for you to make a decision or you're pretty dead set on what school you want to go to, I highly suggest you visit it before you sign any papers regarding your attendance at that school, or, agreeing to start attending that school, because I feel like the vibe of your environment in which you're working in, it matters. And if you are going to go into an environment that you hate, or like you just don't feel good there, you're most likely not going to succeed to your fullest potential. And so luckily I went in to my school for a tour. It's so funny because I went in as like just me going in. I pretty much had in my head that I really wasn't going to go to school. Like, I personally just was like, oh, let me go look at the school, but I'm not gonna sign anything, because I'm not even really serious about esthetician school, which is another funny story. But I went in, caught the vibe, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna start going to school here. Like, I looked at the layout of classes. I talked with the admin, and they were just giving me a lot of information that wasn't posted online in detail. And yeah, I pretty much decided there that I was most likely gonna go to school there because I went in person. And then, yeah, tip number 5 is you probably should try to look into a school that is geared towards what you want to do after you finish your program, because I feel like networking in business, or networking for entrepreneurs, people working for themselves, or even people working for other people, networking matters. So try to talk to a career counselor and see what connections they have if you want to work at a spa or like a wax center, or like, work for somebody. You should probably talk to their career counselor while you're at the school and ask them what exactly do they provide for students after they finish their program, because I feel like that will also help you with your journey and like help you make a decision on what school you want to attend. But so far, yeah, those are the 5 points. Location as number 1. Number 2 is making sure the school's accredited in your state. Number 3, research the program in regards to what type of schedule you're going to have, the cost, the tuition, what the program offers, the teaching style, the teacher to student ratio, please look at the reviews online. And then tip number 4 is visit your prospective schools in person. If it's hard for you to make a decision or you're dead set on a school, you should most likely go visit it before you make any major decisions. And number 5 is always plan ahead and talk to a career counselor before or during your time in school, just to see what your options are as far as completing your program and what you can do with your license. But that's pretty much all I have for today. If you guys want more videos or you want me to go in depth with some of the things that I was already talking about in this video, go ahead and shoot me a comment and I'll be glad to make that content for you. Thank you.